I've been around for recording in progress.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm recording in progress. So I just got out of Studio A. I do broadcast meteorology, and I just finished the 6 o'clock news over here, but I've been doing this for a long time. And I know that a lot of you don't have any interest in communication or, what I do. Some of you want to do research or, work for the Weather Service or whatever. But I think the concepts that I might talk about this evening, and I won't talk long. I hate long, boring talks, might help. So anyway, I did a talk at Mississippi State kind of related to this, and the file I've got is similar. And again, this is me. This is when I was in high school. I mean, this is how old I am. This was me in 1973. And I was a student in high school and loved weather. And we built an illegal radio station in the school. They didn't know it was illegal. They thought it was perfectly legal. But I worked my way through college at a radio station playing rock and roll music on the radio, which is very odd. It paid like $1.80 an hour, but this is how cheap college tuition was back then. I paid college tuition by doing that for years. But my first major in college was electrical engineering. I didn't think weather was a viable career option. Nobody ever told me that. And I regret that because, well, I don't. I spent 3 years as an engineering major, but I learned that you could do weather. It was possible. And would wind up transferring to Mississippi State and finish there. My first TV job was actually in 1978. This is me when I started in this market. I'm in Birmingham. And I started as the main weather anchor at Channel 13, the NBC channel, so long ago. And after 5 years there, I was transferred to Dallas, Channel 4, which is now the Fox affiliate. When I was there, it was the CBS affiliate. And I was the weeknight lead meteorologist in a top 10 market at the ripe old age of like 26. And I really had no business being there, but I was transferred there. And I look back on it, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity because I met some amazing people in meteorology with the Weather Service and the private sector that have been friends for life. And I learned a lot, and I know what it's like to work in a top 10 market. I'll never have to know what that's like. I filled in for the CBS Morning News and all the things that you do when you're in the top 10 market. But really, I've never been that interested in TV or, market size. My home is Alabama, and my wife and I just wanted to come back, and we were able to come back to the ABC channel here. This is 1990 at Channel 6, and this news station, it formed 26 years ago in 1996, where I work now. So I've been here for 26 years, and I still cannot wait to come to work every day. And I only hope for everybody that's watching this that you live a life like this, where you have a job where you cannot wait to go to work every day. It's been an absolute joy. I've probably been here too long when you start seeing this stuff going on here. I mean, this guy, let me just say, too much alcohol is a really bad thing, okay? I mean, this guy's going to wake up one day realizing I'm stuck on his body for the rest of his life. But this is what people know me for. I just think I was born to be standing in front of a green wall when there are tornadoes flying around here. Birmingham's a very aggressive, severe weather market. I'd say, and now so many markets do it. We were kind of early in, like Oklahoma City and Birmingham. Now most markets, do the aggressive stuff when there are tornadoes flying. But this is what I do. This is one last year. This was an interesting day. This is March 25th. I take that back. This was the week after Christmas. This was one coming through Winfield. This is March 25th of last year. And this is a classic Deep South tornado. That's a rain-wrapped EF3 on a spring afternoon. And you can't see it. We're not sexy like Kansas and Oklahoma. Our tornadoes are typically QLCS tornadoes. They're rain-wrapped. They happen at night. But this was not a good day because right after this video was taken, that hit my house when I was on the air. And I got all this, attention, which was weird. I don't really like attention. And I think everybody in this room would do the same thing. I knew my wife was fine. I texted her to be sure we have a tornado shelter, and she was there. And I knew that she was going to be fine. But you're still a human. You wonder if you're going to have a house and the damage was horrible. This was a direct hit by an EF3, but by the grace of God, the roof stayed on the house. I'm going to find that roofer one day and buy this guy a fancy dinner, because if the roof would have come off, we'd be in a hotel for 8 months. But we could stay in the house while everything was being repaired. But for those that are interested in broadcast, and times are changing very rapidly, and the question I like to pose to the younger people that want to come in here, what's our competition? If you want to win, if you want to be competitive, who are you competing against? And of course, the truth is most people don't get weather on television. Those days have passed long ago. They get their core weather from their phone. And we all know that. But the truth is, this is what's become our competition. A series of people and entities that use social media to distribute their products and services. Some are professional meteorologists, most are not, and they're not all bad. Some are darn good. In fact, I would suggest that you see Nashville severe weather listed, one of the graphics on this page, in Memphis, the Memphis weather guys. They're the greatest. We could learn from them. We need to learn from them. They're doing it right. The messaging, the dissemination process, the forecast process, they're just incredibly good. If anybody I know, they're moving to Memphis or Nashville, I say, you got to follow these guys. And of course, you got your people like Reed Timmer, and everybody knows Reed, which is great. His streams are fantastic. And then you've got the genre of the non-professionals that have amassed these huge followings. The Ryan Hall y'all and Mike's weather page, their social media followers are massive. Professional meteorologists have very few compared to them. And I'm not saying they're good or bad. We had Ryan Hall on the show on Weather Brains about a month ago. And we had some people that told us we'll never listen to the show again. And some people said it's the greatest show you've ever done. They're very controversial, but many people are starting to get their weather information from these sources, and we just have to be aware of that. And some of the stuff is just bad. I mean, these thumbnails are insane. You guys have seen this, and the argument is that they have to have these thumbnails to get video views, which in turn drives their monetization. And look, that's making money is great. I'm all for it. You got to be able to feed your family. But anyway, the question I have for everybody is, how do you stay on top? And for everybody in this room, you're going to be competing to some degree. You'll be competing with others that want your job that you want at the Weather Service, or at NCAR, or at NSSL, or at NHC. And just the quick bullet points, and I'm not going to, again, talk long tonight. I hate long, boring Zoom calls. They're nasty, but these have worked for me, and they'll work for you. And that top one, I think, it's about work ethic. And in my case, I had to go to work when I was a child. I mean, when I was really little, when I was 7 years old. Just some background on me. My dad walked away from me and my family when I was 7, and I have no siblings. It was me and my mom, and he didn't pay child support, and we were broke. I mean, really broke. And I had to go to work. I don't think there were child labor laws back then. And I learned to work hard, and that work ethic has really carried me. I'm not good at anything I do. I'm really not. But I will work harder than anybody else to accomplish a goal, and that work ethic is important. And the second thing is really important too. A lot of the YouTubers and the TikTokers, those guys can't really compete with us on a local level, because to understand and to really serve a market, you have to immerse yourself in the people and the culture and the geography of the market that you serve, whether you're working for the Weather Service or in broadcast. And I've seen some Weather Service people say, well, I don't need to do that. I'm not a broadcaster. Well, you're serving those people in that CWA. It might not be a DMA, it's a CWA, but you're serving them. When's the last time you hung out in the Dollar General and you talk with people, the real people that you serve? In the weather enterprise, we're really guilty of, going to the NWA meeting and the AMS meeting, and we sit around these rooms and we talk about what's best for us. Well, that doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for the people that we serve. And again, the geography, you gotta know the territory. One thing we've learned, and I'll chase a rabbit here, people cannot find their house on a map. We have a real problem with geography literacy in this country. I'll post this easy to understand map across all the platforms, the Facebag and the Tweeter and all this stuff. And immediately everybody says, what about my hometown? What about? They can't read that map. It's Russian to them. And so when there are tornadoes flying around here, You've got to communicate with them. And to do that, and if you've ever watched me, you know the deal. I'm calling out everything from Walmarts to barbecue joints to strip joints. And, everybody get all weirded out when I called out Wesley's booby trap one night. But listen, everybody in Bagley, Sayre, Corner, they know where Wesley's is. And I didn't even think twice about it. When I got off the air, everybody said, ooh, I can't believe he said that. But you have to understand the territory. And that's really important, no matter what you do. If you're in the messaging business, and you got to have a servant's heart, you got to put the needs of the people you serve before your own needs. That's a big deal. And everybody in this room, you're going to have a defining day. All right. I guess I'll put myself in a box. I don't like to do that, but everybody in this room in your career, and I would assume that you want to do meteorology, you're going to have 1 or 2 days that define you, and that's it. 1 or 2 days. That's it. And sometimes you don't even know when you wake up that morning, that's going to be one of your defining days. And typically it's related to a very high impact weather event, whether it's a blizzard, whether it's a tornado outbreak, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a flood. And you've got to be ready for that day. In my life, I've had maybe 2. And one of them was this day. This was 11 years ago. We had a generational tornado outbreak. These are some of the thunderstorms on April 27, 2011. And again, looking at this, it's just horrifying. That's graphic violence. It's graphic violence. And this is the afternoon batch of supercells that came through my state here. And it was a day that those of us that worked it will never, ever forget. This is a map of the tornadoes that day. We had 62 in one day, which has happened before. We had a day like this in 1974, the classic super outbreak of April 3rd, 1974. I was a senior in high school, and that changed my life. But I was not a professional. I volunteered for 3 days with my ham radio gear for that. We had a day like this in our state in March 1932, and a day like this in February 1884, the Enigma outbreak. They happen about every 40 years. But this is the first one I've worked as a professional. And the next time we have a day like this, I'll be at the cemetery. But we had 62 of these things. And so many people, focus on really one of them. And it was this. This is the EF4 that came through population centers. And we got a real population bias problem. If you live in a population center, we'll take care of you, and you're going to get all the attention. But what about people that don't? I don't like that. But this is the EF4 that came through Tuscaloosa. This is from John Brown and Mike Wilhelm. I've known Mike tragically passed away a few years ago, but John's still a good friend. He still goes out with us. And this was their video. And, 252 people died on this day, on my watch. And that's inexcusable for anybody in the weather enterprise or the public. And you don't know what that's like until you've gone through that. I didn't talk about this day for 6 months. I chose not to. In fact, what's odd, we had the NWA annual meeting here in Birmingham that year in the fall. And I just chose not to talk. And, I'm a bag of hot air. You watch Weather Brains, I'm a blah, blah, blah. But I had to go through all the phases of grief, anger and depression. And I needed to do that. And after about 6 months, I decided it's time to roll up our sleeves. Something went wrong. And listen, any doofus could have issued these warnings. A third grader with the radar signatures, with all these video and the sky cams. The warning process was pretty easy. The hard parts when you got a QLCS tornado that's down for 2 minutes in the middle of the night. That's hard. So the warnings were good. And in many cases, the lead time was 30, 40 minutes. And yet all these people died. And obviously, we're not that good. We're not as good as we think we are. And what we do is not enough. And I think what we learned this day is that physical science is not enough. And that's my whole world. I've never taken a single class and being some TV guy or Weather Brains or getting on the, talk or the tweeter. I'm feeling my way in the dark in this stuff, but we've got some work to do. And all that matters to me, it's that number 252. And that number will be with me for the rest of my life. This is Danielle Downs. I'm going to take my box off of this. Danielle was a student at the University of Alabama. She was 2 weeks away from graduating. She was killed April 27, 2011 at 31 Beverly Heights in Tuscaloosa. And for those that don't know, I've just about got every name memorized of the people that died. And this is how you immerse yourself into the culture and the people that you serve. Danielle was from Morgan County, and she was with Will Stevens, a friend from high school. Will actually went to college at Stillman College, another college in Tuscaloosa. He played baseball, and he was killed at 31 Beverly Heights, as was Lauren Brown. They were three high school friends. Lauren was a student at Shelton State Community College, about to transfer to the University of Alabama. I often go by 31 Beverly Heights and think about these three kids. And this is what I think about. Lauren's mom, and I've befriended so many of the surviving family members. Ashley Mims, she sent me this note on the day of a severe weather outbreak in 2018. And she said, James, this is Lauren's mom. She was one of the three killed, and today's her birthday. Of all days to have bad weather, but if people just don't forget the faces like hers that we lost, maybe they will take this seriously. And I said, Ashley, could I post this? And I did, and she said yes. And I honestly think that made a difference, because we had a horrible tornado later that night through a college town in my state called Jacksonville State University, and nobody died. And people were ready. They were prepared. They heard the warning. They responded. And I'm so thankful for these surviving family members that want to use the death of their loved ones in a positive way. Miss Minnie was from Tuscaloosa. She was killed when her car was lofted on Interstate 359. Why was anybody driving? Why? We don't have all the answers. This is Angel Stillwell. She was a sixth grader at Pleasant Valley School. And the one thing I do every day, and I'll chase another rabbit here, I speak in schools every single day. You know, I see a lot of, broadcast meteorologists, and I spoke to 2 schools last month. Well, what do you mean? I speak in 2 a day. I don't understand that. That is a win-win-win-win for everybody. And it gets kids excited about science. You learn the territory, you learn the market, you learn the people. You just don't sleep. I've not slept since 1973, but that's okay. I love what I do. But I've been to Pleasant Valley so many times, and she was a sixth grader, and she was killed in Knighton's Crossroads. You don't even know where that is, and probably don't care, but I do. And that's one of the 252 that died that day, along with Haley and Mikey Kreider. They were students at Concord Elementary School, just west of Birmingham. Miss Bessie Brewster, she lived in Pratt City. That's a neighborhood in the city of Birmingham. She was a retired nurse. Everybody said Miss Bessie had the best smile in the neighborhood. She was killed April 27, 2011, along with Jonathan and Justin Doss. They lived in a small town called Cordova. Cordova was hit by 2 tornadoes that day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. They survived the morning tornado. They did not survive the one in the afternoon. Cordova probably has about 1,000 people that live there. And the one thing I really see that's disturbing to me about these television weather shops, and I'm not blaming the meteorologist, it's probably the administrative teams at these places, but if there's a tornado in the metro, in the city, all the TV stations, live, local, late breaking, the Weather Authority, we're on top of it, we save lives. But the minute it gets out into the country, into a rural area, they go back to Freak of the Week or whatever's on television. And that's inexcusable. What you're telling people is that if you live in a city, your life is precious. If you live out in the country, we don't care. And that's nuts. And we don't play that game here. And if they tell me I've got to, only big city people are, but I'll just go do my own thing here. But they've been very good to me. I've got full freedom to do whatever I want to do here. And we provide coverage for rural areas just as we do for the metro. And again, those 2 kids lived in that small town of Cordova, Jonathan and Justin. This is Alan and Angie Sanders. They lived in Shoal Creek Valley. They were home with their 3 daughters. The 3 daughters lived. Alan and Angie were killed April 27, 2011. Carrie Lowe was a nurse. She left behind a husband and a newborn. And her last social media message is pretty haunting. She was kind of paying attention. And we had 2 rounds of storms that day. We had a morning round that knocked out power to about 250,000 people. And we know that affected our ability to reach people later in the day. This is where Carrie died. This is 12th Street in Pleasant Grove, a suburb of Birmingham. And again, I'm just not a big fan of everybody getting hooting and hollering when there are tornadoes, and, their underwear gets flapping up down their legs and they get all excited. And I used to be like that when I was in high school. I wanted tornadoes. I wanted storms. They turned me on. And I understand that feeling, but at some point we have to grow up and realize that tornadoes affect real people at a real place at a real time. And it's not a joke. It shouldn't be a way for you to, get rich or whatever. I mean, we just have to be aware of that and be cognizant of that and treat this with propriety, decency, and respect. This is Carrie's newborn. He's 12 now. That was taken last year. That's her sister-in-law. Shane and Jennifer Hallmark, they lived in a small town called Ruth in Marshall County, which is south of Huntsville. That's Ari, their daughter. Shane and Jennifer were killed. In fact, this to me was the defining maybe story of the tragedy. 5 Hallmark family members were killed in one house. Ari lost her parents, 2 of her grandparents, and a cousin. 5 caskets, 1 family. This is Ari today. She's a high school senior, beautiful young woman. She's gone through some rebellion issues and anger issues, and I can understand that. But she's really got her head screwed on. She loves to serve people, and her story is just tremendous. And I'll stop here. I could do this all night, but this is Ashley Harrison. Ashley was 2 weeks away from graduating at the University of Alabama. She was an only child from Dallas, like me. I'm an only child. And she died April 27, 2011. When she was lofted. And when they found her, she had a pulse. And when she got to DCH Regional Medical Center, she was alive. A lot of people don't know that. And the nurse, the triage nurse, was desperately trying to clean her up. She was impaled, and they were trying to get her into surgery. And she died before they could get her in there, and she had to take her down to the morgue. And I got that nurse up with Ashley's parents, Dave and Darlene, and they had a long talk. But the nurse wanted her parents to know how hard she fought to live. This is Dave and Darlene when they accepted her graduation. They delayed graduation until later in the year. And let me just say this, if you can't see the pain in her eyes, you are not human. I do not want you working for me. And quite frankly, I do not want you working in the weather enterprise. You have to attack this whole science with the goal of mitigating this kind of human suffering and pain. It's very real. So the question is, I posed to the folks that were helping, why did all these people die? I don't know. Back in 2011, I didn't know. And again, let me check my time here. It's I'll probably go for about 10 more minutes. I hate talking long in these long Zoom calls, but I wanted to share a few quick things we learned after this generational event. But I went to these social scientists and they stepped in. This is where I first met Kim Cloco McLean. She was just Kim Cloco back then. I don't know if you know Kim. She's on one of our regulars on Weather Brains, a brilliant social scientist, meteorologist. And some others like Laura Myers and Susan Jasko, some of the most famous social scientists involving weather in the world. And they really helped me. I said, we have to take an interdisciplinary approach. What I do is not enough. I do physical science. That's it. I don't understand human behavior. We're asking people to do something here. And so we've got a pretty good idea why so many people died. And the number one reason people died on that date, I'd like to think that a lot of you should know this, and some of you might want to be involved in what I do, but it's the siren mentality. That's number one. People thinking they're going to hear some siren. I hate those things. And yeah, they serve a purpose. They serve a purpose, but it's to reach a limited number of people outdoors, and that's it. Okay. It's stunning to me how many people honestly think they're going to hear some World War II era siren before a tornado in a house or a business or a mall or something. And that killed more people than anything else. And it really dawned on us that the next year in January, we had a 16-year-old girl, Christina Heichelbeck. She was killed in a Birmingham suburb at 4 a.m. from an EF3. Same type tornado hit my house. And the grieving father later in the day said they didn't hear the warning siren. Come on. You know what? I want to climb these poles, take them down and burn them. That way, you know that you won't hear them. But that's not the right thing to do. They serve a purpose. They reach a few people, and that's fine. But we have to be really bold in our messaging here that ain't it. And most people assume their phones are always going to work. And you guys with your iPhones, 27P, Samsung Q3 or whatever, when there's a tornado emergent, there's a good chance your phone's going to be a brick when the cell service goes down. Weather radio is the baseline. it's still the baseline. And most homes don't have them in tornado-prone areas. And we've really got to work on that. And we've got to get people turning the WIA back on their phone. A lot of people turn WIA off because they don't want to receive Amber Alerts, and that makes no sense. You don't want to help somebody if their child is missing. I don't understand that. But anyway, we've got to get weather radio use back up. And the number two by far, and the top two were far, far and away the big ones, the lack of helmet use. And I knew it. I knew it on April 27, 2011, and I didn't say it enough on the air. I knew it. I volunteered in healthcare for a long time. I've been the chairman of the board of a major hospital here for 17 years. It makes no sense for a weather guy to do that, but I've always been interested in healthcare because of what I do with tornadoes. And I know ER docs, and I know things. And most people die in tornadoes from blunt force trauma above the shoulders, head, neck, skull. And a cheap bicycle helmet from Walmart will save your life most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time. And I didn't say it enough. And blood's on my hands for not doing that. And real quick, a few other notes here. It's never going to happen here. The false alarm ratio was just out of control. You know, people, we heard this in the verbatims all the time. Tornado warnings happen all the time, and nothing ever happens. The FAR, the false alarm ratio here at Birmingham, was 83 in 2011. 83% of tornado warnings were false alarms. That's nuts. Nobody's going to listen to a warning with an FAR of 83. And again, blood is on our hands in the weather enterprise. And yeah, I don't issue the warnings, the Weather Service does, but hey, we're family. We're all part of the same team. And we all just went back to basic science. We challenged each other. And at one point, the FAR here got down to 20. Birmingham is the best office in the United States when it comes to reducing the false alarm ratio, because we killed people in 2011 because the FAR was too high. We've got a warning addiction problem in this country within the Weather Service, within broadcast, within the TikTokers and the YouTubers. It's constant hype, hyperbole all the time. In some Weather Service offices, they're carpet bombers. Warn. And your FAR is 80, 90%. That's insane. You're crying wolf. And we've got to fix that. We've got to fix that. And we're very frustrated here because sometimes we feel like we're just crying in the dark. Nobody's listening to us. But as a weather enterprise, we got to cut that FAR while keeping the POD up high. And they've done that here. They've been very successful. They were issuing tornado warnings for high base storms that had never produced a tornado here with these high LCL heights. And, you know, we're just better. We're not perfect, but we're better than we used to be. So that's my heart and my encouragement for all of you, no matter what you want to do. Going back to those things I talked about. And this, let me tell you what, you come apply to me for a job. And by the way, I do have an opening here if anybody wants a job. Nobody wants to do this anymore. Your generation will never use the Ron Burgundy newscast, and that's cool. I understand that. The time, I don't even watch them. You know, the times have passed for that. But I have great faith in your generation. You're going to reinvent something that's so much better than what we've done here. But let's say you want to apply for this opening I've got. The first thing, by the way, I do is check your social media feeds to be sure you're not a, you know, and I'm a freedom of speech guy. You want to go say whatever you want to say, that's great. But there's certain restrictions that I've got to have for people that work for me because we have to reach everybody. In fact, some of you know my Walmart test for the interns in the summer we have here. If you've never interned with me, if you ever do, the first thing I do is take you to a Walmart in a working class part of the city and engage you in conversation with people in that Walmart. And these are people that don't look like you. They don't think like you. They don't vote like you. They don't look like you. They don't have the same education you have, but these are the people that you serve. It's an incredibly diverse audience. We're here to save every life, whether they're young, old, city, country, right wing, left wing, whoever. And if you can't handle that, you don't need to be doing what we do. You need to be in research or something else. But again, if you're applying for a job, I want somebody that's going to work harder than me. And I work pretty hard. I've yet to, although this Taylor, the young woman that works for me in the morning, she's the greatest hire that I've ever made. She's brilliant. She's turned down offers in Dallas and Atlanta because she loves living here. This is a great weather market. And if I ever drop dead, and I'll never retire, I'll just drop dead, but it's her job if she wants this. But I want somebody that's willing to work hard, somebody that works with integrity, does the right thing when nobody's looking. I don't want anybody that's going to go drop their pants in the Arby's over here. You know, I mean, there's some strange stuff going on here. And somebody that understands that we're here, that we need to work with a servant's heart. We have to put the needs of the people we serve before our own needs. And somebody that stays on top of the science, that's constantly reading when you go home at night and you're looking at papers and you're talking with people that are smarter than you. I have to do that. I really have to surround myself with smart people, and you'll be wildly successful. But thank you, guys. I didn't mean to talk so long. That's horribly boring. That's the worst talk ever. But thank you, guys. If I can do anything to help, I'll be glad to do that. My Gmail address, it's jspann@gmail.com. Got a great Gmail address. It's like tcook@apple.com, jspann@gmail.com. But thank you, guys. Y'all have any questions or comments? Am I in trouble? You're all still there? Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Is there any questions? Oh, somebody's gotta have something, right? Anybody on the?
No, I put them to sleep. I'm better with third graders. I mean, third graders love me, man. You guys need to go teach third graders science. I would be a third grade science teacher if I didn't do this. I mean, those third graders understand sarcasm. They think I'm funny. You can teach them middle school level science. They're still kind of sweet. They don't smell bad. I love third grade. They are the absolute greatest. If I could pick one grade to teach, it'd be third grade. But most schools I see, like today, the school I had today, they had pre-K through eighth grade. I'm sorry, pre-K through seniors in high school. The whole school was in there. And so that makes it kind of a challenge when you're talking to them, but I'll make that work. I'll make anything work. But yeah, doing a college lecture, I've never been good at that. But again, guys, I'm good for nothing, but when you're old as I am, you know everybody. I had a student today from OU, from the University of Oklahoma, sent me a note, and she had some questions and she wants to go into research. And so immediately I got her hooked up with some big shots out there. They're going to help her. And I can do the same thing for you guys. Again, I know people, so I can help connect you guys. So if you need anything, just holler at me.
I'll ask a question real quick if you have time.
Okay.
So obviously communication is very important in our industry in general. As broadcast meteorologists and as operational meteorologists, you know, you have to be a good communicator. We hear it here at NIU, and I know you harp on it a lot too. So how can you make yourself a better communicator? Even if you believe that you're the best communicator around, how can you constantly improve that?
That's a great question. And let me just say this. If you're going to work at a weather service office, at WFO somewhere, you're a communicator, because the weather service social media, accounts, profiles, Facebook or Twitter, whatever, some of them have 100,000 or more followers. That's a mass audience. You are a communicator. So even if you go to work for the weather service, you're a communicator. One of my best friends is a guy named Ken Graham. And if you don't know Ken, you need to get to know him, because he is the new director of the National Weather Service. He's a great communicator. He's good. He understood this concept years ago. I've known Ken a long, long time. And I love what he did at the Hurricane Center when he was there. And I love what he's going to do at the Weather Service now that he's the director. We really wanted him to get that job. But he understands the fact that everybody is a communicator. And quite frankly, even if you go to work for NSSL or NCAR, you need to be a communicator, because you got to communicate with practitioners like us so we can all be better. But when it comes to serving our people, the people you serve in your CWA or DMA or whatever, I think the most important thing is being out among the people, preferably every day, which is what I do in schools. I work a morning shift at home. I work the night shift here at the TV station. Middle of the day, I'm in a school somewhere. And that gives you incredible knowledge of people and how they think and what they want to know and how they need to, in the forms that they would like to receive the information in. And on the journeys, you know what I do? I will stop in a Dollar General. And I bet you everybody in here has never been in a Dollar General before. Y'all probably never been in a Walmart before. We isolate ourselves, and we just surround ourselves with people like us, and that's it. But that little circle of our friends, that's not who we're serving. We're serving the masses. And by going into a Target, a Dollar General, a Walmart, and actually spending some time and talking with people. I don't need a stinking $100,000 research project. I just talk with them. And I'll say, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? How can it be easier for you to understand what I'm trying to say when there's a threat of tornadoes or a major hurricane coming up or a flood event or a winter storm event? And I think that's helped me more than anything else in terms of communication, is just talking with people and listen how they talk. It's like, I like to talk like they talk. Like one of our biggest problems here, people that live in manufactured homes away from municipalities. A lot of people in my state live in manufactured homes. And guess what? They don't call them manufactured homes. They call them trailers. And I call them trailers on the air because that's what they call them. And that's when they talk to each other, they're just trailers. And, somebody with a mobile home, the MHI, the Mobile Home Institute, the lobby, they got all offended because I called them trailers. Well, how about go talk to the people that are your customers that call them trailers before you come talk to me? But that's just an example of understanding the culture of who you're trying to serve. And that makes you a better communicator. So you guys need to get out of the Starbucks and go hang out in a Dollar General or Walmart somewhere. Family Dollar, bowling alley.
I guess I'll ask another one. And tying into the mobile home thing, and I know this is something that's talked about widely in the South, and I know our own Dr. Ashley, who I see is in the call, is doing some research on this, and that's societal impacts from severe weather such as tornadoes.
Yeah, the research he's doing is brilliant. I mean, goodness gracious, it's so helpful. But we got a problem. We've got a real problem. And after 2011, we thought, okay, we're doing better. We're doing so much better. Then we had this event down in Lee County near Auburn in Opelika, where 19 people died in manufactured homes, trailers, on a Sunday afternoon. Dadgummit. And for some of these people, they don't have transportation. It's easy for us to fuss and be we're the elitist weather people. These people didn't hear the warning. They didn't respond. It's their fault. Well, maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they don't have transportation. They can't leave. And they're not going to be able to walk 10 miles to a gas station or a shelter. And, for some people, they can't afford a $30 weather radio. They can't. That's way beyond their ability to pay for that. And we have to do a better job for people that live in manufactured housing. And I do honestly believe that it's going to be something between a watch and a warning, some type of intermediate product. I don't expect somebody in a trailer to go sit in a tornado shelter for 6 hours. If you guys ever been in a community tornado shelter, they're nasty. They are gross. You're in there with weird people. You got dogs farting. You got just horrible things that are happening here. And nobody's going to sit in those things for 6 hours. That's not realistic. But they'll sit in them for an hour. They will. And, and we need to be coordinated. That's the thing, So one guy's going to watch one channel and one guy's watching the other channel, and some guy's watching the TikToker and some guy's watching this other guy on the YouTube, and somebody's watching the Weather Service feed, and they're all saying something different when it comes to people that live in trailers. When do you leave? And I think we need to coordinate that message. If you live here, you need to leave the trailer now and go into a shelter or some type of site-built structure, like a gas station or a fast food restaurant. And that's going to take some coordination, and it's going to take more research, but I've got a lot of smart people working on that. I would like for it to be coordinated. That's a thing. The Weather Service chat is great. That's one of the greatest things that ever happened. And I'm proud to say I was at the lunch when that whole thing started. We were down here at O'Charlie's. It's probably 20 years ago, me and Ron Murphy and Tom Bradshaw, a couple of Weather Service guys. And it was not my idea. It was theirs. And we got on Yahoo Chat. Okay. This was a big deal back then, Yahoo Chat. And during severe weather, we communicated, and it was the greatest thing ever. And that morphed into NWS Chat. Daryl Hertzman got involved, and, it's the whole thing's moving to Slack. It's become a disaster, a train wreck technically. But once we get that thing over to Slack, that's incredible. But again, we can coordinate this stuff. We can do that. So I just think we need to have an intermediate product between a watch and a warning and be on the same page. That's a long answer to a hard question.
Last minute questions? Anybody on the Zoom? Alrighty. Well, let's give them a round of applause.
All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great night. I'm going to go get back to hurricane duty here. We got a little hurricane coming up on my neighboring state down here. So you guys have a great night. Thanks a lot. It was great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Well, just so the people on if there's anybody even left, I don't even know if just got in there. That's us. Yeah. So that was a good meeting.
Yeah, Alex.
So again, Paul Markowski on Friday, 11 a.m. in room 308, how to make a tornado. Be there, it'll be very fun. And then an AMS chapter meeting with him in here from 2:30 to 3:30 about research, acting, etc. And then next week on the 15th, we have the Deck the Met Lab, and we hope we get a lot of people out for that because it should be a lot of fun. So with that, it's going to wrap up our meeting. It's been a little bit interesting.